This is Stereoactive Presents. I'm your host, Jeremiah McVay. And in this episode, I'm joined once again by Charles Hinshaw, this time to discuss How to Blow Up a Pipeline, which is directed by Daniel Goldhaber and is available on Hulu. In just a moment, you'll hear my review of the film, followed by my discussion with Chuck. How to Blow Up a Pipeline essentially plays like a heist movie where the object of the heist is a future that otherwise seems so futile and bleak that to not successfully execute the caper is simply not an option. Propelled along by a bustling, plaintive, largely electronic score composed by Gavin Brivik, we follow our cast of characters from several walks of life as they converge on the representative object of their derision. That object is the titular pipeline, somewhere in arid West Texas, and the relative isolation only aids in the film's success in making the viewer feel immersed in the microworld the group of characters have chosen to now exist in, away from a society that may judge their actions separate from their meaning and, at least as far as they're concerned, necessity. This immersion through isolation makes it all that much easier for us to feel as if we're a part of the plot ourselves. The result is a vital commentary on the state of our world, a world where the idea that we may actually be able to make a difference for the sake of humanity's very future can seem not only daunting, but often impossible. From this point on, we may discuss elements of the plot that some would consider spoilers, so if you don't want to know anything about the movie at this time, you may want to come back and listen to this later. So, Chuck, what were your thoughts on How to Blow Up a Pipeline?
I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was super compelling, great, tight screenplay. You mentioned the music. I really liked the music. I thought all the actors were really good at what they did. And, for being this kind of largely unknown group of people, it was really a satisfying, little sort of piece of nice indie cinema. I guess they made it largely on their own, or not quite sure about financing, but the lead woman, it was also co-screenwriter, I believe.
Right.
And it's not something I necessarily agree with, which I enjoy. Is nice when you can create a movie that, I throw my sort of socio-political views out the window and just enjoy the movie. I liked it.
Yeah.
I'm also curious about how much that stuff affected its release and its presentation to the wider world, because I hadn't even heard about it. I had only heard about the book through a piece in the New York Times that just recently came out about the guy who wrote the book. And then you told me that there was the movie, and I was like, oh, that's based, I guess it's pseudo based on the book. And then that got me interested in seeing it.
Right. Yeah, I don't really know much about the book, and I don't think it has a plot, right? It's not
it's like a
caper
non-fiction
heist movie. So
right. And I don't think it does not promote eco-terrorism or environmental, whatever you want to call. I don't know what the right term is. It's sort of about how through various grassroots popular movements, sabotage has played an important role.
Right.
And that's kind of what I understand it's about.
Gotcha.
But certainly it's not about actually blowing up a pipeline.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting that you point out that despite your own views or you enjoy this movie portraying this, I think that speaks a lot to how well the movie does immerse a viewer in itself.
Right.
You just kind of get swept along with it, was my experience. It's just every moment is pretty compelling. All the characters are just all pointed in the same direction, with this one maniacal goal almost.
Right.
Quietly maniacal though. Well, most of them.
Sure.
Uh, and it would be so easy, I think, also for this story to go sideways or seem almost too pat at the end. Um,
Right. Right.
but I think they do such a good job of investing you in it that you are just feel relieved at the end that like it played out how, even though you didn't know all the facets as a
Right.
viewer, because you don't
Right.
like, I don't remember at what point they reveal that like the two people are going to go down for it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, pretty close to the end.
Yeah, it's at the end, right? And
Right.
then there's these two like kind of like the two party people who are part of this crew who
Right.
seem like they are on the verge of like giving up the whole thing
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
for a
Yeah.
lot of the movie. You're like, how are these people involved? And then the reveal that, you know, they're basically using the circumstance that one of them has already been like caught and flipped
Right.
against the authorities. You know, I thought that was just like a really uh clever reveal and cleverly done.
Yeah. I think that's what makes it so interesting to me is that it has its moments of expressing its message, but it's not overly preachy, and it's
Yeah.
sort of mostly about the action and a little bit of this like keeping you guessing,
Yeah.
suspense sort of thing,
Yeah.
which I like. I think it would have been a bummer if it had been more of, look at all these righteous, fighters for our future, blah 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 blah, and that was like
Yeah.
all it was, you know.
Yeah, it's almost like it's foregone, you know, for each of the
Right,
characters. They are already at their conclusion. No one's trying to convince you as a viewer.
right,
They're just showing you why this person has gone down this path. And
exactly.
then it's about just hanging on along with them through the ups and downs of it. You
Yeah,
know, it's more about like the act than the reason.
right.
So yeah, I think you're right to point
Hmm.
that out.
Yeah. So I had read that it was rejected by a couple mainstream film festivals like Sundance.
Oh, really? I haven't really
Yeah.
gone into that history of it or
Hmm. And
background
I
of it.
mean, I don't know, I don't know why, obviously, this could be, but I wondered if I was just curious if the subject matter was too touchy
Yeah,
for people like it, because you do, uh, they get two of them go to jail, but most of them get away with it,
yeah,
and you can definitely argue that the film itself, if it's saying anything, is kind of pro what they're doing,
yeah.
or at least is pro like thinking about it, like, but like, um is certainly not anti
Right,
sabotage. So maybe that's a little too touchy for some people, I don't know.
right. And well, here's the other part of it too is that like the movie doesn't really show you how successful their actual plan is because we
Right.
watched them doing the act,
Yeah.
but that is supposed to just be it's supposed to be a much bigger result than
Right.
what the act would seem, you know,
Yeah.
to give you, because like their idea is that this could shut down oil, and like there's this whole thing that oil prices are indexed to Texas, so that's why they're doing it in Texas.
Right.
And they really think that they can like achieve this thing. And you know, there is a part of me that at the end of the movie, I'm like, everybody always thinks they could like their action is going to have this big outsized
Right. Right.
result, and like it never does. So like,
Yeah.
would it in this case, or would they just like be out there, fix the pipeline, and get things moving
Yeah.
again?
Well,
You
that's,
know?
I mean, and you can definitely, I think you could definitely rightfully criticize the movie for being, long on sort of rhetoric and idea
Mhm.
and like short on facts and reality. Like I, like I don't know how
Oh, I'm
it
not
seemed.
criticizing it. I
Yeah,
I'm bringing that up to point out how successful I think the movie is, because like
right,
I get to the end of the movie, I'm like, they did it. Yes.
right,
I'm
right,
not like they did it, but yeah, like I mean, so what? I don't
right.
come away with that. Like that
No, no,
I do
no.
think of that later, but at that point I'm like, I don't care. It was such a good movie. I enjoyed watching
Right.
it. I think it has a vital message that needs to be out there. I'm not saying
Mhm.
that like their methods are the way anything should happen or not. Like but I think it's pointing out that there is a an extreme need to figure out some problems. And
Right,
if we don't figure those out, people are going to start to take matters into their own hands, are
right.
going to feel the need to. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I guess my point is it's this is the tricky thing with making movies is you have this option to make a more, I would say, balanced, but I guess really kind of what I'm saying is just nuanced movie about the climate debate and the situation and because I think these characters speak for their side of the argument, which tends to be very simplistic. It's like fossil fuels are the problem, so just stop using fossil fuels. And if you're not going to stop, well, we'll make you. And they do put they mention like, well, what you're really doing is you're making poor people freeze or
Right.
something like, they kind of give you a couple lines to suggest that they're, you know, aware of who they might be actually hurting.
Right. The
But they
collateral.
also, yeah, but they also kind of bulldoze over it and are like, well, whatever. Like the larger point is, um, so you kind of have the choice of like making something more sort of open or expressing of the nuances and the complexities, or you can make something very entertaining and kind of push
Yeah.
it like make the choice they made. And I one might be kind of boring and not interesting, whereas they went the movie route. They were like, we're making a movie, and so let's make it. I'd be curious to know what they really feel, if this is just like an interesting film they thought about,
Hmm.
or if they're very much like on this side, or
Yeah.
that
I
kind of
mean,
thing.
I guess having also not like really read any interviews with the filmmakers or
Hmm.
anything, like I would come away from this movie assuming that they believe some version of this, not
Yeah,
or that it needs to be brought up,
yeah.
at least. But I, I I think that another reason that the film is successful to me though is that it has this kind of like wide cross section of people that it brings
Hmm.
together, and
Right.
that could seem so forced and
Yeah.
contrived, but I
Hmm.
think they do such a good job of really showing you like realistic situations where the climate crisis and environmental um, negligence that is being carried out
Right.
really does affect a lot of different people for a lot of different reasons,
Right.
and that there is a common cause, that like in this sort of, I don't know what you want to call it, like this like motley crew. Like there is
Right.
a
Right.
reality there, like they are
Yeah.
surrogates for like a bigger groups of people out there in the world suffering in one way or another because of you know what's happening to the world.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. And I think that that's a good, that was pretty successfully sort of expressed, was
mhm.
just this idea that you are affected by it. I mean, they're all kind of the most dramatic examples, but
Yeah,
it's, the point is clear, and I don't think they hit you over the head with it too deep,
exactly.
which is good.
Yeah, I think it all like everything is always moving. So
Right.
that's the other trick of the movie is I think
Yeah.
that they don't really give you time to like wade in or
Mm,
get lost in these things that we're talking about now. The movie's
Right.
always moving forward in one way
Yeah.
or another. And so you're worried about the next thing or if not the current thing, you know?
Right.
So, but you're not
Right.
worried about the thing that just happened or the idea that brought up.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. It does move it has a very intense pace. And yeah, I wonder if that was maybe intentional to not dwell too much
Yeah.
on any sort of singular concept and just kind of keep it simple, keep it moving.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think this personally, I think this is like maybe the most underrated movie of last year.
Yeah.
Um,
I was surprised by even like so it did come out last year,
yeah,
right?
it came out like in the first half of the year, I believe.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, I assume you watched it on Hulu like I
I
did.
did, yeah.
Um, and so it is kind of funny after what you said that like maybe some festivals were afraid of the movie, and then it's on
Mhm.
Disney owned Hulu.
Right, right,
uh,
right. I mean, yeah, maybe they weren't maybe they just like something else, but
yeah,
and a friend of mine said that, it played at IFC Center and or just IFC, that's like ATM machine. But
they do call it
uh
IFC Center.
yeah, but
No, I think the C stands for channel though. So
oh, okay, so
it
there we
was
go.
IFC was Independent Film Channel.
Independent Film Channel Center. So it
Yes.
played at Independent Film Channel Center, and I they did a. He said that they had a class at Brooklyn, maybe at BAM or something. So I mean, people have been aware of it in a way that I was like, oh wow, I'd never even heard of this thing.
Right.
But I think it's not surprising that this friend of mine is rather left leaning.
Yeah, yeah.
That I think within certain circles, it's probably gotten more attention and love than others.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. I
So
think it's definitely a word of mouth movie too.
right, right, yeah,
I guess it had to be for for
yeah.
whatever
I
reason.
don't know because I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know where it.
But to me, it being on Hulu, it's like it's on a
I know,
platform that a lot of people have and could watch,
right?
which seems promising. So I hope the word of
Yeah,
mouth does, help people find it there. So
yeah,
I guess that's why we're doing this.
right. Yeah, check it out on Hulu
Yeah.
if you still have Hulu. I mean, that is kind of the problem with like peak streaming, right?
Yeah.
Is so many things are available
Yeah.
and
Which
it's
silo
easy
are
to,
you in?
yeah.
And
And I'm usually not even in the Hulu silo. So I mean, really, it would have totally gone past me. But
yeah, yeah.
I think it's a cool movie and I think it's worth checking out.
Definitely. I agree.
So people should.
Any final thoughts?
No, I think that's the final thought. So
Okay.
watch it. Give it a watch.
Yeah, give it a watch, people.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Stereoactive Presents, and thank you to our guest, Charles Hinshaw. The music in this podcast is composed by Hansdale Sue. My name is Jeremiah Lee McVay. If you like what you hear in the show, please rate and review it in Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or anywhere else that allows that. Doing so helps us to expand our audience, and it's much appreciated. And please follow us wherever you happen to listen to podcasts. Every little bit helps, and like I said, it is truly appreciated. You can also get in touch with us at stereoactivemedia@gmail.com, and you can find more information about this show and everything else that Stereoactive Media is involved with at stereoactivemedia.com.
This podcast is produced by Stereoactive Media.